there are a lot of incoming connection from internet to the some port that should not be open to the internet. And the third finding over here, there are some finding is coming from FortiCNP based on the flow log analysis. So for example, if you click over here, this finding type is network. So basically, network meaning the finding is generated or analyzed by FortiCNP. Not only from FortiCNP finding, we also put all together finding from the GuardDuty AWS as a native security services from AWS, also put all together or collect together into this view or the resource. So if you click here, this finding. Basically, this finding is coming from the Amazon GuardDuty. That's why FortiCNP put very high risk score for this instance. And another thing in the resource information detail here, FortiCNP also put the configuration change tracking, so you can easily identify what is happening on the configuration for this resource, and we can compare one configuration to another configuration easily by put the compare. And if after we understand the risk and the prioritize for this risk and risk of this resource, we can send the notification to the team, the backend. We can send to the ticketing system, or we can also send to the email address listed here. And talking about the resource, it's not only the easy to install. If you look at here about the resource, have also S3 bucket. So we're talking about resource is not limited to only compute resource. Okay, based on all the finding, FortiCNP will have also generate report. So for the report, we do have several standard report based on compliance. So we have a subcompute, PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR, NIST, and ISO 27001. So you can easily generate report based on those standards. Now let's talk more detail on the policy. As I mentioned before, on the finding that for the risk management or configuration management in the is generated based on the policy in the risk management policy. So in the risk management policy, we have a predefined policy. Basically, policy that we define here is based on the security best practice applied for the public cloud accordingly. So, but some of them also based on the standard compliance policy. Based, for example, over here the GDPR, PCI DSS, and also HIPAA, and also we have some policy that related to the RM. We noticed that RM management is very important when we deploy our workload or application in public cloud. So FortiCNP provide us some predefined policy related to the RM. And you can see here, for example, this RM user of inactive RM user over 90 days should be removed or disabled. It is based on the compliance standard like a CRS. And a lot of CRS standard is also applied to this predefined policy. And still in the policy, risk management, we can also do a customized policy. So customized policy currently is applicable for the AWS infrastructure. So we can do customized policy for the security group, for example, or IAM related configuration. So you can define your customized policy based on your requirement. And this is one of the important part in our risk score. So we can put some modifier for the resource. For resource that unimportant, we can put a 1% modifier. But for resource that business critical, we can put a very high modifier. So that for certain resource, it will get higher risk score compared to the others. And still in the policy, we have also the threat detection policy. So threat detection policy is consist of the user activity. It will help us to identify if our account is getting compromised or doing some malicious activity in suspicious activity. that's related to our deployment in public cloud. And in the threat detection, we have also predefined policy for the network detection. One of them is, for example, is threat detection for the botnet activity. This botnet activity basically is integration between FortiCNP and FortiGuard to identify if our instance is talking or communicate with the suspicious IP based on the database getting from FortiGuard. Okay, and the last point that I would like to highlight in the FortiCNP is our integration to notification. So as mentioned before, we can send our notification to the several systems, including AWS SNS, AWS SES, email, to Jira ticketing system, and also to ServiceNow. For example, if you want to do the email notification, it's very easy to set up. You just put the name over here, and we can put also the email address that we want to send the notification. And we can select what kind of notification what kind of notification that we would like to share. It could be based on the resource group, and also based on severity. Maybe we will send only the high severity alert or finding, and we can also send the report to this email accordingly. Okay, so that's all of my demo. There are some takeaway that I would like to share with you. The first one, we can see FortiCNP has integration to the native CSP security services, and also FortiCNP has integration to Fortinet security fabric such as FortiGuard. And FortiCNP also provide us our insight priorities that really help us easy to prioritize action based on the resource priority and the score that attached to the resource. With that, I would like to thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Im Nu, for your sharing. So following up, let us welcome Andy, who will be demoing FortiWeb, Protect Web Application, and APIs. Okay, so I do see some feedback coming through the chat box. So there was suggestion that the transcript to be added when the on-demand version is available. Yeah, we will actually take note of that and include that when the on-demand version is available. And so right now I'll pass the time over to Andy. Over to you, please, Andy.
Hello, welcome. I'm Andy Lam, the Regional Cybersecurity Specialist here at Fortinet. I'm here to talk about how FortiWeb Cloud is helping our customer protect against vulnerabilities, and also how to protect your API applications. So when we think about FortiWeb and the use cases we're trying to address with our FortiWeb Cloud solution, there are really kind of 4 key things we are working on here. One is there is a core web application security use case. That is about protecting your web applications from a range of threats, including things that is kind of the traditional or WAS top 10. That would be things like SQL injection attack, cross-site scripting, that sort of thing. But also unknown threats that may not be part of those categories, but then we still need to protect against. And this is where we bring machine learning in, so that the WAF can learn your application, understand how it typically behaves, how your user as well. In that way, we can detect anomalies and stop threats for which maybe signatures don't yet exist. We also could cover bot defense, which is protecting against the full range of malicious bot activity. If you are like me, you are probably identified all the bridges, bicycle, chains, and traffic light you ever want to from photographs. And the reality of it is not a great user experience to detect bots that way. It also may be not that effective, as computers get really good at image recognition. So we are going to give you more sophisticated tools to identify bots. and apply appropriate policy and controls. We also want to help you with regulatory compliance. I never think of regulatory compliance as the end of the conversation, but in terms of WAF, it is often one of the first reasons why people start looking into this space, because a number of regulatory compliance frameworks do require you to have a WAF or a similar solution in place. And the last but not least, we need to broaden our idea of what a web application is. Because the core technologies that we use to create really nice interactive web application, in particular the APIs get used for lots of other things today. So those web APIs may actually be used for business-to-business communication where there's no web browser even involved, or could also be used for supporting things like mobile applications. And so this API also need that kind of a defense. So for a complete solution, we think we need to cover all these use cases. Fortinet has been in the WAF business for quite a few years, and we have our appliance-based solutions. But a couple years ago, we introduced our Cloud WAF as a service, FortiWeb Cloud. And what this is, we are not just spinning up a bunch of virtual machines to give you this capability. We've actually created a multi-tenant solution. And one of the advantages of this is it gives us very elastic capacity. So you can use this to protect very small applications at reasonable cost. But we can scale up to big enterprise applications as well. It's also deployed in the same region within your cloud provider. So if you are using Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, or Oracle Cloud, we can actually deploy the inspection component with that cloud environment. So we are running very close to your application, give you great performance. It can simplify your regulatory environment as well, because you're running your security solution in a different regulatory environment than your application itself. And it can also help give you more efficiency in terms of bandwidth cost by not making you send data out of your cloud environment to, say, an external services. This is also multi-cloud, meaning you can apply exactly the same controls regardless of which of these cloud provider you use, or even to protect applications that are not yet running in the cloud. Key benefits of this is really web deployment. So because it's a WAF as a service, you are not having to spin up virtual machines. You are not having to manage fault tolerance. You no need to having to think about your scaling. We take care of all of that for you. And this can actually be set up in just a few minutes and be ready to go. So there is a way to very efficiently and quickly provide the protection that you need. Now, beyond that, what is really important is this is all backed up by FortiGuard Labs. We are actually doing all the research and gathering threat intelligence, pushing out new analytics, and providing you an up-to-date continuously updated service to protect your applications. That's why when something like the Log4j vulnerabilities comes out, we are already in motion where we are there to analyze it, figure out the right control, and then again, push out the right analytics to help you mitigate that risk. So what I'd like to do now is to look at a demo to show how easy the web application can be deployed in FortiWeb Cloud and how the API application can be protected. Let's go into the demo. First of all, I just want to show how easy it is to onboard the application. Log into the FortiWeb SaaS. The first step is actually put in the name of the application and then the domain name of your application. Then in the next step, FortiWeb will resolve your application domain to IP address. You can also customize your IP address as shown, and then click Test Origin Server and wait the test successfully appear. After that, you can select to enable CDN for caching. Depending on users are around the world or not, you can select in America only or global. In our case, we don't enable CDN service. Then, you can enable the block mode by default or not. If you enable block mode, FortiWeb will intercept the traffic and start blocking. But if you turn this off, the traffic is still intercepted by FortiWeb, and that won't be blocked, and it will be shown in the log as an alert. The last step is to actually go and change the DNS record. Copy the CNAME provided by FortiWeb Cloud and update the current DNS record, which is actually pointing to the public IP address. You can use to change this to the CNAME record that we provided. Then wait for the DNS update. You can see the record is updated. We can access the website now. We try to input an cross-site scripting attack here, and then have a look of the attack log. We can see the action is monitored. Next, we enable the block mode and issue the same attack to see the result. This time, a block page is shown and also can be found in the logs. Now, I'm going to show the API protection. For the demo purpose, I have on board an API application in FortiWeb Cloud. As API protection is not turned on by default, you can select Add Modules to activate it. And we select Open API Validation here. Let's go to the API protection menu and select Open API Validation. You'll find that there's two rules has been created. Let me show how to add the third rule here. Click Create Open API Validation Rule and upload the sales YAML file. You can track each parameter that each template has. Like news, the query length is minimum 1 and maximum 2. For numbers template, you can see there is no query limit. For sales template, the login has minimum 6 and maximum 7 strings limit. Password has minimum 12 and maximum 13 string limit. Now, we can try the API application. The browser has installed an API plugin to use to generate API requests. First, let's test the news API. Input ID 1 and send request. We can get the 200 response from FortiWeb and the first news. Then we try the number API. We put 101 here. A 200 response and the result 102 shown here. If you input 103, result 104 will be shown. Next, we try the sales API. We put the login ABCDEF and password my_password1. We can get the login name as a return and OK result. We can try the login ABCDEK and password my_password2. The right result can be shown as well. Now, let's try an unexpected input to see how FortiWeb Cloud responds. For news, we knew the maximum is 2 digits. Input 99 will get the right result. You can try the sales API. So see login change to ABCDECY. Yeah, you can see that. FortiWeb will reply with a full 3 reply so that it block this request. And then let's try to see the news. We can try the command injection here. Also, you can see that FortiWeb will give us a block page. Okay, let's go back to the attack log to see what happened. And the first we can see that it is the previously we input a 100 value, which is invalid in the input. So from the log you can see that the API validation will show this is not correct. And the next one, we have input a incorrect login, 5-character login. Also, you can see from here, yeah, the login, you can see ABCDE here, also blocked by the FortiWeb with the not correct input. And the last one is the we try to input the command injection, and also from the log you can see that there's no attack, and the command injection you can see as well. Yeah, you can see the command injection here. So yeah, that's it. This is the end of the demonstration.
All right, thank you for the interesting sharing, Andy. Next on, we proceed with the last demo of the day, Greg, for FortiMonitor to gain end-to-end performance visibility for your application lifecycle. Over to you, Greg.
Hi, and welcome to the FortiMonitor demo session. My name is Greg Turnquist, and I'm a consulting systems engineer with the FortiMonitor team. In this session, I'm going to show you how our customers use FortiMonitor to get visibility into the run stage of the application lifecycle. FortiMonitor gives you visibility into all of your servers, your network, your endpoints, your cloud assets. It'll notify you about issues before your users start calling you. We do that all as part of a SaaS platform. We do this by collecting telemetry from laptops and desktops, from the network, from all of your infrastructure and applications, and also by integrating with the Fortinet security fabric. When we look at the architecture, we can see the FortiMonitor, it's a SaaS solution that's part of FortiCloud. So the way you access it is that you log into fortimonitor.forticloud.com. We do all of the data collection and aggregation in the cloud. All the visualizations are handled in the cloud, all of the dashboards and reports that can be scheduled, and also the notification engine. So the notification engine does two things. It notifies the right people in the right time frame when there's some kind of an issue, and it also runs our automated remediation, which we'll call countermeasures. What that means is in response to an incident, we can take an action to quickly try to resolve the issue. I'll show you an example of that when we get into the demo. Some of the other key components here are the global monitoring network, where we have 70 locations around the world where we monitor your external facing applications. And to make sure that your applications are up and responding well from different continents, we also have in the data center an on-site collector. So the on-site collector is a virtual machine that you spin up in your data center, and it does all the SNMP metric collection from legacy network devices that support SNMP. Anything that has an SNMP MIB, we can monitor that using the on-site collector. When you have Fortinet equipment, we have the capability to connect to the Fortinet security fabric and to use an API to pull much more detailed metrics than we could with SNMP. The on-site collector also does synthetic monitoring, so it can check for the availability and response time of internal applications from the perspective of the data center. And then we have our FortiMonitor agents that run on servers and desktop machines that can also do synthetic checking for the monitor agent. The example that we'll show you today is when our CPU goes over 95% for a certain amount of time, we're going to do two things. We're going to notify people, and we're also going to run the countermeasures. For hybrid and cloud infrastructure, we also run in the cloud. In addition to having direct integrations with many of the services in AWS and Azure, we can also put an on-site collector there and run synthetic checks. We can put the FortiMonitor agent in place, which can also do synthetic checking as well. So there's a number of options for monitoring services in the cloud. Now let's take a look at how you use FortiMonitor. We'll start with a dashboard that shows the performance of my pet clinic application that runs in the cloud. While you do get a number of dashboards out of the box, in this case, I've created a custom dashboard that shows all the different kinds of information that I'm collecting about this application. To start with, we can see the application availability. Is it available? Is it up? Down below, we can see the website performance. This is a multi-step synthetic transaction that opens up a browser and navigates through the website and reports back on how long that took. In this case, I'm doing a test from 2 locations in the United States and reporting on how long they took and alerting if anything takes too long. We're also taking a look at the payment API and the payment API response time for this application. We want to make sure that we can be paid, so we do a synthetic check to make sure that the API is available and that it's responding within the SLA times that we have set with that payment vendor. In the middle, we can see some of the information that we collect with the agent. The agent in this case runs on my Linux server on my EC2 instance in AWS, and it's collecting CPU performance, memory, disk utilization. Down below, we can see that we also have a SQL database where we're tracking the number of transactions running through the database so we know when the database is busy. This information all comes from the server agent that's running on the application server. As we get into some of the endpoint agents, there are some additional capabilities, and I'll show you those in a little bit. You can see here we've got the Fabric integration set up with the FortiGates. In this case, we're using the Fabric integration using APIs to collect detailed information about performance. You can see here that we can pull the topology that comes directly from the FortiGate. And the good thing is I can make this visible to people without having them to have to log into the FortiGate to see it. Down below, you can see legacy equipment like Cisco. In this case, I'm tracking the wide area network bandwidth, inbound and outbound using SNMP. I'm tracking the FortiGate with inbound and outbound traffic with the Fabric integration. And then to the right, I'm tracking some of the incidents. So that was an example of a way we can visualize the performance of a particular application. Now let's take a look at things that look at the whole estate that we're monitoring. In a case like that, I would go to an infrastructure map where you can see red, yellow, or green square for each of the components that we are monitoring. So in this case, we can see we're looking at the digital experience monitoring. We've got our network monitoring. There's some other views I can take a look at to drill into more detail into different components. If I want to see some metrics from those network devices, I can click in and see some details. I can see whether there's an issue. Each of the red and green squares is the status of the devices that we're monitoring, whether it's red, yellow, or green. And then from there, if I click into any one of the devices, I can see the details about the incident. Here's a network device that's having a problem. If I click into that, I can see the details about the critical incident, and then I can click into the incident. I can take action. I can do a number of things with the incident, and we'll get into the incident management in a little bit. Today, we're going to talk about monitoring an application once it's in the run stage of the application lifecycle. So let's take a look at our application monitoring. that will show us the availability of some of our key applications like Team or Zoom from multiple different vantage points. Here you can see we're monitoring from the endpoint agents, we're monitoring from the on-site collectors, and we're also monitoring from our public probes. If I drill into one particular application, let's take a look at Teams. You see that I've got a number of different monitoring locations set up. In this case, you can see a summary of the last day, the last week, the last month. If I click into the monitoring view, I can see some of the details of the metrics that we're monitoring. So we're hitting it with HTTP, HTTPS, and we're also using ICMP ping to measure network quality metrics. If I look at my locations, you can see that I have a number of public locations, some on-site collectors, and some endpoint agents. So if we look in a little bit more detail about this Windows machine, it's a Windows laptop that's monitoring the performance of not only the Windows operating system on the local machine, but also the additional digital experience monitoring that we are collecting using this endpoint. So if I click into the detail for that device, I can see down below some of the metrics that we're collecting. I want to show you some metrics in detail here. So first of all, the digital experience metrics, and I'll expand this time out to be the last, let's say the last day. So here we can see my Wi-Fi signal strength. I can see my digital experience download speed. I can see my Wi-Fi receive and transmit. If I had a user who was having problems at the remote site, I can easily see that during the day, the download speed drops quite a bit and then picks back up more toward the end of the afternoon. So as I look at this data, this is important data where I can understand really what it's like to be this user at this remote site. The other thing that we want to look at here is if we filter out by the network quality metrics, you can see that we're using ICMP to collect information about the latency and jitter and packet loss from this remote site. This becomes really important when you support things like SD-WAN connections and VPN connections, because all of these tests are actually using the connection that the user is and give you detailed information about what it's like to be that particular user. So that is the endpoint monitoring. We take a step back and take a look at some of the fabric integration. I just want to show you that the way that we get this information is to connect to the root of the Fortinet security fabric, so typically a FortiGate. And from here, this topology, you can see that we're monitoring the APs that are behind that FortiGate, and we can see the devices that are connected. Again, we're pulling this topology directly out of the FortiGate and making it visible to a more general audience. Over to the right, I can see the device status. I can click into these devices and see the details. Down below, I can see how the radios are performing. And in this case, I can sort of track inbound and outbound bandwidth on all of my different access points. I can also alert on those things, but this is just a quick way that I can visualize that using the fabric integration. So I want to show you an incident that happened recently on my pet clinic application. In this case, an incident happened where the CPU went to greater than 95% and it stayed there for more than 5 minutes. So that's the threshold that I set for when this incident would trigger. You can set up individual triggers for each metric on every single server that you have, and you can custom define the actions that happen when that incident triggers. So I can see the graph showing the CPU going up to 100% and staying there for 5 minutes. But if I look at this countermeasures, this shows me the commands that ran in response to this incident. In this case, it's a CPU problem, so I ran a top command to see what the top processes are at the time of the incident. I can also run a netstack command. I can look at disk usage. I can also run scripts here. I can do things that restart an application or restart IIS or restart a service, or I can check the availability of a service, or I can just tell it to reboot the server or reboot a FortiGate. There's a wide range of things I can do as these countermeasures. We provide a number of them by default out of the box, like this top command. But if you want to customize these, it's really easy to do, and it's built into the system and pretty straightforward. The other important part about incidents is that we have this timeline over here on the left-hand side. We can see the incident was detected. We ran our countermeasures, and then we sent notifications to Slack and to Teams, and we sent emails. We can send SMS text messages. We can send voice calls. There's a number of ways that we can do it that are all built into the system. You don't have to contract with third parties to send a text message, for example. We take care of all of that. So this ability to alert people in the right timeline, you can have different timelines for different services. You might have some servers that are mission critical and some that are development. You would want to have different alerting timelines, different escalation paths for those two different types. Right, so FortiMonitor is extremely easy to use and get started. But as you use it, you'll notice that there are a lot of advanced features that will help you get the best out of it. And one of the ways that we can get the best the best value out of those additional capabilities is our best practice service, where an expert customer success manager would be assigned to your account, will help you onboard the service and get the best use of it. This is a huge differentiator for us, and our customers get a lot of value out of this best practice service. So for the quick summary, with FortiMonitor, you can visualize the performance of your application and infrastructure once it is in the run stage. When an incident happens, you can notify the right people at the right time and run the automated countermeasures. That helps you to find the cause of the issue quickly and even take steps to resolving it. If you want more information about how to get started, please feel free to reach out. And thanks for attending.
All right, thank you, Greg, for the demo. Right now, the moment you're waiting for, the lucky draw. So we have a total of 2 prizes to be given away today. So let us start with the first draw of today. For the first draw that we are drawing for today is the Apple AirPod earpiece, and we will start the draw now. Okay, we have a winner, and the winner is Charlene from MBSB Bank. Congratulations, Charlene. We will be in contact with you soon. Moving on to the second draw of the day, Logitech MX Master Wireless Mouse. So let us start the draw now. And the winner is Adi Rusadiana from PTSI Indonesia. Congratulations. Congratulations once again to all the lucky winners. We will be in contact with you soon. Thank you all once again for sharing, spending your time with us. I think today's session, I think there's some feedback that, some of the voice quality wasn't that good, the video quality wasn't that good. Do apologize for that. All right, so just to let you know, the on-demand version will be available after today to your registered email address. All right, but before you go, okay, please fill in your feedback form, as your feedback is always important to us. Just to let you know, for today's session, we are actually offering 14-day free trial for all those products that you have seen. All right, so if you have any interest in trying out for the 14-day free trial service, right, just scan this QR code, fill in the form, and we'll get back to you. All right. I'm going to leave this on for the next 10 minutes or so. So in the meantime, stay safe, stay well. We hope to see you again next time in the next demo day. And that's all. Thank you and bye-bye.
you.